All right, we're going to call this Finance Committee meeting to order. Present are council members Cost, Bub, and Marmee. Sitting in for Blake is Fennell, and sitting in for Frazier is the Buddhist. First item on the agenda is a resolution asking for authorization for the City of Newark to pick up the statutory requirement contribution to the Ohio Public Employees Retirement System for the employees of the city pursuant to the Internal Revenue Code, Section 414.
This is a housekeeping issue that we must abide by in order to remain compliant with both PERS and the IRS. It deals with pension pickups. There are two kinds of pickups for pensions. One is a fringe benefit pickup, and that's what we're doing currently with our AFSCME contract. That's where the city pays a portion or all of the employee's PERS contribution in the form of a benefit. That's not what this is doing tonight. The second pickup is a salary deduction pickup. That's what we're dealing with, where the employee's gross salary is reduced by their portion of the pension. The city then will act as their paying agent and pay it to PERS for them. That's something that we have always done, but this legislation is telling us we'll continue to do that. It's something that has come about through one of these GASB statements that I talked about from time to time. We had a PERS compliance audit last week. They gave us the template for this legislation and explained it the best they could. But the IRS is involved because the employee pensions are on a tax-deferred basis. So the IRS wants us to have formal legislation saying we'll continue to do this, as does PERS. So to summarize this, as I said, it's a housekeeping issue. It's required by both the IRS and PERS. It will not cost the city or the employee anything. It allows the city to remain compliant with both PERS and the IRS code 414H2. And we did something very similar to this for the Police and Fire Pension Fund a couple of years ago. So as I said, it's a housekeeping thing. It's just something we have to do to remain compliant.
Motion by Cost.
Second.
Second by Bub. Any questions and or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let it be known for the record that Frazier is now here, so he'll be sitting in for himself instead of Councilmember LaBousse. Next item on the agenda is a request for appropriation in the amount of $3,525.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a termination payout for Jeff Haas of the Street Department.
Motion. Second.
Motion by Frazier, second by Bub. Questions and or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, that motion passes 5-0. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is a request for appropriation in the amount of $65,250.
This is a payout for Ron Walsh from the fire department. He's retired.
Motion. Second.
Motion by Bub, second by Frazier. Questions and or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0. Next item on the agenda is a request for appropriation amount of $55,500.
And this will be a payout for Brian Webster from the police department.
Motion. Second.
Motion by Bub, second by Frazier. Questions and or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. That motion passes 5-0. And next item on the agenda is a request for appropriation of $39,500.
This will be a payout for Deputy Chief Craig Riley from the Police Department.
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Bub, second by Frazier. Questions and/or discussion?
I have a question.
Yes.
So, is there 2 officers that these payouts are for? Is that the count?
There's 3.
3. Ron Walsh is a...
Ron Walsh is a fireman, Brian Webster and Craig Riley are police officers.
Okay.
Any further questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. That motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is a request for appropriation in the amount of $175 for supplies.
Good evening. This is one of those occasions where one of our offenders cut off their scram strap and they've paid it back, so we are wanting to appropriate that money to spend.
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Bob, second by Frazier. Questions and/or discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The motion passes 5-0. Next item on the agenda is request for appropriation in the amount of $2,920.43.
This is the request from the Ohio Department of Rehabilitation and Corrections. They would like us to refund to them all refunds that we receive from the Bureau of Workers' Compensation. So Jackie from the auditor's office gives these totals to me periodically, and then I send them to the state, then the state will invoice us. So this is the next round of those.
Okay.
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Frazier, second by Bub. Questions and/or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. That motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is a request for appropriation in the amount of $12,745.
Yes, I'll speak to this. This is for the annual river gauge contract. Basically, we have a contract to we monitor the level of the rivers, Raccoon Creek, North Fork, South Fork of Licking River, and it's to assist in our flood control efforts.
Second.
Motion by Cost, second by Frazier. Questions and/or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. That motion passes 5-0. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is a request for a resolution authorizing and directing the mayor of the city of Newark to prepare and submit applications to the Ohio Department of Environmental Protection Agency for fiscal year 2018 Diesel Mitigation Trust Fund program for equipment replacement, repower, retrofit, and anti-idle.
This grant opportunity came about as a result of a lawsuit because Volkswagen violated the Clean Air Act. And so the state of Ohio decided to target certain counties, of which Licking is one, for a grant program. So we will be applying for funding for 2 additional dump trucks for the street department.
Okay.
Motion.
Motion by Bub,
Second.
second by Frazier. Questions and/or discussion?
I have a question.
Yes.
So, it's awarded in 2019, or is it?
No, they're saying they're going to award in October. So Dave will have to put that in his capital improvements budget for our share of it.
Okay.
We've proposed a 70-30 split. You had to have a minimum of 25%. We went to 30 because you score better with the grant if you have a little higher match, so we went up a little bit. So.
Any other questions or discussions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is a request for appropriation in the amount of $24,246.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We switched copiers upstairs. When this happens, the company that we switch to refunds us this amount. So it's kind of an in and out transaction.
Motion.
Motion by Frazier, second by Bub. Questions and or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. That motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is a request for appropriation in the amount of $20,000.
Yes, this is for actually manhole adjustments that goes along with all of our street maintenance programs. So this is out of the sewer fund.
Motion. Second.
I have a motion by Bub, second by Frazier. Questions and or discussion? Yes.
So is this used during the paving for 2018? Is that when this is used? Or?
It'll be, the project will be bid out in 2018. It's unlikely there will be much work done in 18 yet. So most of the work will actually probably take place in spring of 19.
And have we already identified the manhole covers, or is that?
We put a quantity in the contract because we count them up ahead of time. We put a quantity in the contract. Sometimes they meet, sometimes they don't, so the quantity never matches exactly, but this is what our estimated quantity is. So, the manhole adjustments are about bid price average between $450 to $600 a piece. So.
Any other questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0. Next item on the agenda is a request for appropriation in the amount of $15,000.
Same situation, except these are for water valve adjustments, and these come out of the water department fund. And the cost for water valve adjustments are from about $300 to $500 a piece.
Motion. Second.
Motion by Bob, second by Frazier. Questions and or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. The motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Brian. Next item on the agenda is a request for appropriation in the amount of $3,335.90.
This is overtime that the fire department expended at 2 fireworks details. They received a reimbursement check for the overtime, and we'd just like to put it back in their overtime account.
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Cost, second by Frazier. Questions and or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. That motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Director. With that, this Finance Committee meeting stands adjourned. Next up is Service.
All right, we'll call the Service Committee meeting to order. Those present are myself, Rath, Cost, Bub, Mr. Labuda sitting in for Mr. Lang, and Mr. Fidel sitting in for Mr. Blake. Up first, I'll consider ordinance number 18-23, changing the zoning classification of certain real property generally described as 451 Van Tassel Avenue, City of Newark, Licking County, Ohio, from that of medium intensity business zoning district to general business zoning district. Who is here to speak on that? Mr. Moorhead?
Sure.
You've been nominated.
The applicant has requested a zoning change in order to put a new business at that location. And the business that they wish to do requires a different zoning change.
Okay. So from here it goes to the Planning Commission. From the Planning Commission it comes back to Council
For a final
for
vote.
first. No, it goes to Council for a first reading.
You go to council for a first reading,
Then Planning
and then it
Commission.
gets referred to Planning
And
Commission.
then back to
Planning
council
Commission will
for a
have a
second.
public hearing, and then recommendation back, and then back to council for a final vote.
Okay.
Motion.
Motion by Bub. Seconded by Cost. Any questions, comments, or concerns from the committee? Any questions from the audience? Seeing none, all those in favor of sending this on to council, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Passes 5-0. Thank you, sir. Up next will be ordinance number 18-24, an ordinance approving the editing and inclusion of certain ordinances and resolution as part of the various component codes of codified ordinances, providing for the adoption of new matter in the updated and revised codified ordinances, repealing ordinances and resolutions in conflict therewith, and declaring emergency. Mr. Sassen, please tell me what I just said.
You just identified a piece of legislation allowing our publishing company to update our codes, which we do semi-annually. The reason there's an emergency in there is because they ask that it be done quickly so that they can meet a publishing deadline of their own.
Okay.
Motion.
Motion by Bub.
Second.
Seconded by Labus. Any questions from the committee? Questions from the audience? Seeing none, all those in favor of sending this on to council, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. That passes 5-0. Thank you. Up next, resolution 18-67, authorizing the conveyance of certain real property now owned by the city of Newark, Ohio, to Newark Development Partners as its agents for industrial, commercial, distribution, and research development. Mr. Rhodes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This property is 39 North 2nd Street. It, for those of you that are unfamiliar with the property, is the site of the former Yes House that was torn down earlier this year. And we're asking to transfer this to Newark Development Partners. We're looking to do some site combinations and some further development on that site.
Okay.
Motion. Second.
Motion by Cost, seconded by Bub. Just my own curious sake of wondering why the address was not included in the legislation.
Why it wasn't, the address was included?
Why it was not.
Oh, it is.
It's on the back.
It's on the back. It's got the parcel number too.
All right, I'm not going to look it up. I'll take your word for it, but I thought I read it.
Yep.
Find it.
Got it.
Okay. Any questions from the committee? Questions from the audience? All those in favor of sending this on to council, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. That passes 5-0.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Rhodes. And that concludes our service committee.
All right, we're going to call this Rules Committee meeting to order. Present are council members Marmee, Frazier, and Fennell sitting in for Blake. First item on the agenda is to consider ordinance number 1825, an ordinance amending chapter 218 of the codified ordinance of the City of Newark, Ohio regarding mandatory ethics training for certain elected and appointed officials.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We are asking council to modify the ethics requirement because it's a duplication of the training. The programs are identical.
Okay. Questions?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Frazier.
Second.
Second by Fennell. Questions and/or discussion?
So, if you don't mind. So, from my understanding, there's a 1-hour Ohio ethics training course that's provided by the Ohio Ethics Commission. What we're saying is it's a duplication. We do the 2-hour course because you just have to repeat the same course material with no additional training, right?
Yep, and this requirement here will do that once every 2 years.
Okay.
The 1-hour course once every 2 years.
Just also, the state of Ohio has for most of the positions, not for all of them, their requirement is just the 1 hour of ethics.
Yep.
Also, so it fits more in line with the state of Ohio and what is required. And so therefore, it's also less money to do it that way on municipalities. So, any other questions or discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. The motion passes 3-0. Thank you
Mr.
very much, Jerry. And with that, the Rules Committee stands adjourned, and we will reconvene for council at 7 p.m.